initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He joined in 1968. And
Oh, Radhe Radhe.
the Jai.
Jai, glories to Prabhupada.
So
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Jai.
Thank you, man. Same here.
It's the first time you're coming on our meeting?
Yes. Yeah, I was like on YouTube. You were live streaming, and from that info, I got the group invite. Like, so I joined it. And
Jai.
And what attracted you to want to join?
Like, man, all my life, like, people are unaware, right, of this oneness thing. So I was very curious that, man, why don't like experience it and then implement what I have gained through it, right? So I was always curious, like spiritual, and then material life is like, oh man, wow, nice background you have.
Oh, that's Srila Prabhupada. And Narayan Prabhu is holding the umbrella, which you can't see. Oh, he's right here to the right. Not the other way. Narayan Prabhu, you gotta get out of the way. No,
way?
more. Yeah, that way.
I'll get out.
Yeah. You see the guy that's holding the umbrella right at the corner on the right side? That's him. Here.
Okay.
Yeah, he's holding the
And
umbrella.
I should go to participants, right? Nara. The screen is black.
Oh, the screen is black? No. His profile picture, Narayan Prabhu's profile picture. You see it? The background. He's in the background. But anyways.
It's black. Yes, right.
Yeah, so welcome to the program, Prabhu.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, and this program you can ask questions, share your realizations, anything you like, because you're reading Prabhupada's books. Obviously, you'll have questions, right? What does Prabhupada say? What does Prabhupada mean here? So you can ask here and solidify your Krishna consciousness and then expand it. And you can enlighten us also.
I just want to show that, like, look, what I've done to the room is like I have.
Oh, nice.
So it helps me to make.
So you have read the Gita a couple of times, Prabhupada's Gita?
Yes.
Huh. What have you understood so far by reading Prabhupada's Gita? I mean.
Every moment we live. Okay, so every moment one should be conscious of it, right? So he gets to live it fully. Okay, he should like one should not get carried away with thoughts. Okay, right? And thoughts are being created, and loops are being created, and the desire, lust, everything, whatever he explained, man, it's amazing. Like I cannot describe it in words. Okay, it is the experience you gain through reading or through realizations, right? That experience is important for me.
So you come from
coming back to it.
Yes, you come from a Hindu background. What background you come from?
Yes, Hindu. I'm a Hindu.
Okay, so what do Hindus believe in? I mean, you're in India. You're now coming to Krishna consciousness. It's totally different from your understanding of Hinduism. How can you describe Krishna consciousness and Hinduism? What's the difference?
Should we be asking him questions like this? I think he wants to experience what we do.
No, I want to experience what he has understood is the difference between Krishna consciousness and Hinduism. What's the difference? Have you understood the difference?
Hinduism. Okay.
I think because we're putting them on the spot unnecessarily.
Huh?
Hinduism, and I don't know much about.
No, that's okay. You know,
I'm just being
you
conscious,
to know
man.
what you think, what you feel, what you believe, and we're also trying to see, the Indian population to understand that there is a difference between the so-called Hindu and the mission coming from Lord Chaitanya, who he states is Yuga avatar. This means that when Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago to teach us to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, he is Radha and Krishna in combined. And he came back down to teach us. And by teaching us, we become available to go back to Godhead, Krishna Loka. And that's what it's all about. It's not a group to join. It's not a belief system. It is the simple fact that God exists and we are part and parcel of God.
Right. Hare Krishna. So you have any questions for us here? You've been reading Prabhupada's books, or we can continue our discussions. So you came on the program. It's all about you today.
Man, how do one experience God? You experienced God. Like, have you have conversations with him?
How to have conversations with God? You're reading his book, so you are thinking about God. So you're already having a conversation with God, aren't you?
But the presence,
because Prabhupada is a pure devotee, he is transparently in relationship with Krishna. So Krishna, through Prabhupada, wrote the book. So the book that you wrote is actually written by Krishna via Srila Prabhupada. So if you want to know what is Krishna, read the purports, read the books, and you'll understand that Prabhupada was sharing that not just for you and me, which is wonderful in itself, but for the rest of 10,000 years from now, at which point it will all end. You know, Kali Yuga, after this 10,000 years of blessed time of chanting Hare Krishna, after this time will come 417,000 years where people will have no religion, no feeling, no nothing. They won't even have anything to eat. They'll be basically cannibals. So it'll be a very hellish time for 417,000 years, where people that have done bad things in their past life are now going to get to be here in Kali Yuga, reaping the result of the bad things that they did. It's sort of like going to hell, really. It's just a winter of 4 yugas. Like, you know, Satya Yuga is very wonderful. Treta Dwapara Yuga, and Treta Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga is like winter. And during the winter, things start out, there's still leaves on the trees, but after a while in winter, it gets hellish.
So
and it becomes so cold, and you need a coat.
So is that making sense? You asked how you talk with God. So now Narayan Prabhu just answered that you read the pure devotees books, you read the purports.
You're in direct contact with Krishna.
Yes.
It's not like other Bhagavad Gitas. It's not like other scriptures. You know, there have been scriptures. Prabhupada says, you know, there's thousands of scriptures all over India.
Yes.
But if you read them, they're all based on the same reality, but they are not conveyed for you through that reality. And Prabhupada is conveying it through you, for you, through his mouth to your ear. He's creating an opportunity for you to take up spiritual life and experience it, not just read about it.
Jai. What's your mother tongue? What language do you speak? Indian.
Marathi.
Indian language. Marathi. Okay.
Marathi bolto. Yes.
Achha. Marathi.
So, what part of India do you live right now?
In Maharashtra. Maharashtra state, near Mumbai. Mumbai is like 200 kilometers.
You're
Acha.
near Bombay. I lived for
Yes,
some time
Nasik.
in Bombay, downtown Bombay, Mumbai, Bombay.
Yes,
I don't know, somebody
whatever.
changed it
Yes.
from Bombay to, when I was there, it was Bombay.
Yeah.
And you still
Banaras became Varanasi. Yes.
So are you north of Bombay or south of Bombay?
East of Bombay.
East.
Yes.
Yeah,
200 kilometers east.
on
Nasik.
the
Nasik
coast.
is like, okay. Nasik is Kumbh Mela. You know Kumbh Mela? Are you familiar? Like
Yeah,
pilgrim.
I was in Juhu, where the temple is. Have you seen the
Juhu, right?
temple?
Yes.
You've been there?
No. I've never been to any like Iskcon satsang.
Well, it'd be
But
nice
I'm
to
curious.
stop by, but
Yes.
they're just interested in getting more followers. They're not really interested in your becoming Krishna conscious per se. So see the
That is
deities
what
in
Hinduism too is.
Juhu and come here for the understanding, because we can give it to you, the pure thing, as
Yes.
Prabhupada taught it.
He said that's the same thing in Hinduism. They just want to get followers.
Very good. So you have understood that.
Well, yeah, because they're still thinking of materially.
Everyone is, yes, same thing, man. Material life is so much more important, man. Right?
Yes. We're
Everyone has
still
to be like up.
Well, as long as I believe that I'm my body, I'm going to start doing stuff to try to improve the condition of my body. For safety, for pleasure, for wealth, whatever. But the minute that I come in contact with the idea that I'm not my body, I am pure spirit soul, then a whole new avenue opens. And we can see that right now, essentially, we have at least the potential, and we're doing to with each other, soul to soul, jiva to jiva. The soul is part and parcel of Krishna, therefore, completely, by nature, completely Krishna conscious. But because of our association with matter since time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. So we need to relinquish that,
Yes. We are brought up in that consciousness, same consciousness. We have to compete. Yes. And then we are totally unaware.
Your family, yes, which Murti do they mostly worship? Or do they?
Which God do they worship? Is it?
I'm sorry?
Yes, that's the question. What God do they worship? What Murti?
Vishnu, Shiva,
everything.
Durga.
Everything, he said.
Everything.
Yeah,
whatever, you put a picture of it, and you, like me, if I draw a picture and then I put a garland around it and I do it for 1 week, they will start it like, man, this is God. Whatever.
So your family is not super religious then?
Yeah, not so super religious, but we go to like pilgrimage places, like, okay, some family time.
Yes. If you go to the pilgrimage place, you become purified by the pilgrimage place. That's good. But you have been reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is that it?
Yes, he's reading Prabhupada's Gita. I told him to get the original book. He doesn't have the original book.
Yeah.
So I showed him where he can get it.
This was given to me by an Iskcon follower.
Acha.
Okay, on 13th of April 2018, and I read it in June 2020. So the calling was always there.
Jai. The calling was already there. Now you have the books. Now you are in contact with us. So you can ask any questions you like. We're in the WhatsApp group. So you can message me, Narayan Prabhu, or Rupa Manjari here. We're all here to help each other.
Okay. So
we are here to serve your lotus feet.
Jai.
We're here to serve you.
Thank you, man. Look.
What do you want to show us?
This picture. and this rear camera. Okay,
Oh,
this is the picture. Okay, right.
yeah.
So this is the Sahasrara chakra, and it is moving. Some like soul. This is the spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. Bursting
Jiva's
through the top of
leaving
the
the
That
body.
is
skull.
connected to the moon.
And who is the picture of? Who is the person in the picture?
It's
No, it is
it's just a
random.
Narayan, it's just a picture of a yogi leaving his body through the top of his skull.
And that's in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yes.
Yes, is this
No.
as it is.
Try. Very good. So
Nice. Yes. Nice picture. So no, so my point was I've been practicing this. Okay. So on full moon I do this. Okay.
Yeah.
And I try to connect to the moon. So every full moon, like on 17th was the full moon. So I was
Joy.
doing this practice dhyana.
That's very nice.
you should
Yes.
also hear Prabhupada's lectures. Prabhupada has a lot of lectures in
Yes.
Hindi, in English.
I do
So
hear
always hear from Prabhupada. Don't hear from anyone else.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
But you can go online and you can get unlimited lectures, unlimited kirtans, everything. If you want to assist
Physically,
with
man, used
Prabhupada,
to do.
as though that he were personally present, supposing like in 1968 or 67, all you need to do is go online and you can hear him chanting from that period of time. It's completely available. And if you hear Prabhupada chanting, it will give you a spiritual enlightenment practically immediately.
Listening to him is ecstasy, man. It is
Hare
pure
Krishna.
ecstasy. It can't get. You cannot compare. It is beyond comparison. Is because like I have listened to it. He was in Australia.
Australia. Huh.
Giving three and a half hours lecture. It was, I suppose.
Wow.
So it was very much fun. I was aware of what he is trying to speak.
So you're on the right track. You have Prabhupada's books. I gave you the website, and now if you want this tool here, I'll show you here. It's called the Bhaktivedant Archives, where you can search and get questions and answers here. This program here, you see it? It's called the Bhaktivedanta Database. And this is all of Prabhupada's books are here, his correspondence, his letters, audio lectures. You see here? A lot of material is here. So in this way, you can accelerate your Krishna consciousness. You
By
can
reading it.
Yes, just by reading it, and Prabhupada answers almost all questions. Yes. Okay. So he's muted for now, Narayan Prabhu. So let's continue our discussion here. I wanted to go to this website, and I wanted to share some stuff.
Yes, let's do that. Because, asking him right at this stage, to ask him too many questions, it will be premature. He wants to hear what we are thinking, what we feel, and how he can resonate with that. And that's what I want also. I want to be able to share the moment, sadhu sangha, and we'll all, the four of us here can share, or how many of us are on right now?
4.
4. Yeah, right now.
4.
But
Yeah.
more will come in. We're partly confounded by the time differences all over the world when people come in, like New York, Australia, New Zealand.
Jai. Okay. I wanted to share. I'm trying to find it. 1 second. In the alternative.
Man, I want to meet you guys. Okay, let's meet. Let's
Such a
have
pleasure to
discussion.
meet you.
Let's be.
I like your intelligence very much.
Jai.
Thank you, man. I love you, man.
Jai.
Love.
So keep reading Prabhupada's books. Now we're gonna go to our discussion, Prabhu. So you can participate and you can ask questions. So
And make statements.
and make statements also.
Yeah, and realizations.
Where is it?
Feelings.
Jai. Okay, let me load it up here. So this is from a website called therealexplanation.org. And
That's Kailash Chandra.
yes, you have, he makes some nice points. Some of the things, we don't agree with, like he's using this statement here. Where is it? A neophyte Vaishnava or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform can also accept disciples, but such disciples must be on the same platform, and it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Next of instruction, verse 5, purport.
So that's what we're contemplating, is getting the sufficient guidance, not insufficient guidance.
Yes. So then he writes here, everyone who is not God realized is conditioned, or at the very least, still affected by the energy foreign to his or her spiritual state. In the truly liberated state of life, the spirit soul is direct and complete and ecstatic contact with God. Previous to renewal of this state, the soul has at least some kind of veil over his or her consciousness. Even a Brahman realized soul who has not attained complete God realization is considered to some degree a conditioned soul. Although a Brahman realized soul is sometimes also called liberated, this liberation is only a preliminary liberation. Real liberation is personal God realization. As such, all conditioned souls whose realization is less than this are on the same platform of life, a platform which has not reached the completely liberated state.
Is this written by who?
Kailash Chandra.
Kailash Chandra.
He wrote that? That's very nicely written.
Yeah, he wrote this. So I'm just going over some of his writings where we agree, and this makes sense to what we're doing. Then and we can see that he talks about these things. So it's not only us we're talking about these things. There's other devotees who are also there.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Generally, there's a big question going on now, because we've reached a certain point in the history of Iskcon. Starting I was initiated in 1968. So when I became a devotee, there was only like 4 temples in the world that Prabhupada had started, and 2 years later there were 17.
Yes.
So we could see that was called the Hare Krishna explosion, and Prabhupada wanted all the former hippies to become, what he would say, make hippies into happies, and bring Krishna consciousness back to India, not to fight with the Indian religions, the Muslims or the Hindus or Christians, but to bring the spiritual proof of spiritual life in the form of chanting back to India, which they were gradually giving up so that they could come to America and work in Silicon Valley, of course.
Okay, let's continue on this. So he writes on sufficient guidance. So now, Narayan Prabhu, my suggestion or my point is that you can stop me and make a point anytime. So can Rupa Manjari Prabhu, if you agree, don't agree, or you want to add to it. Okay?
Yeah, sure. Do you want Rupa to read? Rupa Manjari?
Yes, she can read also. Rupa Manjari Prabhu, can you read this part here on sufficient guidance?
Yes, we can accept discipline from someone more advanced than us in spiritual life. Even if such a guide is not yet God realized, such guidance will help us on the path of attaining the ultimate goal. In one sense, as long as your guide is a Vaishnava who has accepted a genuine initiation from a God realized Vaishnava, you can accept him as a representative of the Guru. Nevertheless, that guidance can never be sufficient because it is not transparent. Yet, he is not yet out of the fog of extraneous influence. Only the God-realized soul is transparent, and only he can give you sufficient guidance on the path to attain darshan, or direct perception of the personality of Godhead.
Okay, let's stop there for
Very
now.
nicely written.
So what do you think, Narayan Prabhu?
Well, I think that's an impeccable statement. It's very nice and very peaceful way of bringing about a point that is thorny to a lot of people.
Yes. So he makes a point here that anyone who is a practicing devotee who's chanting Hare Krishna and knows the basics can be accepted as a representative of the Guru, a god brother, basically. But
Anyone who simply chants Hare Krishna once is actually a representative of the Guru, because the bottom line for the Guru is to chant Hare Krishna at least once.
yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about they have to chant Hare Krishna, and also there's some standard procedures. They can't eat beef, so
Well, yes.
So in
But
that form,
he's referring to that as the Brahman platform. The Brahman platform is called Kanista Adhikari.
yes,
The Kanista Adhikari means that he doesn't drink, smoke, have illicit sex life. He doesn't gamble, doesn't mentally speculate. All of these things keep a person in a nice, safe platform called Brahman realization or Kanista Adhikari realization.
Jai.
And that's where we begin to make progress as devotees, is from that platform. But as he points out, if your guru is not beyond that platform, if he's a Kanista or Adhikari, then you're not going to get very far. You can take advice from him if he knows more than you do, which in many ways everybody knows more than somebody else does. But that's not the same thing as him being the enlightening spiritual master.
Jai. Rupa Manjari Prabhu, do you want to make a comment on what you just read, Prabhu? Part?
Well, the thing is it seems like he's kind of contradicting the quote from Nectar of Instruction about insufficient guidance, because he's saying you can accept.
Tonight, getting down into the full.
He's saying even if such a guide is not yet God realized, such guidance will help us on the path of attaining the ultimate goal. So.
Oh, yeah, but as long as he's not a Diksha Guru.
It's not clear if he's saying that or not.
And that's true.
So what
say only the God realized soul is transparent, and only he can give you sufficient guidance.
So Rupa Manjari Prabhu, what is the apparent or problem in your understanding? He's saying that, what is he saying? He's confused. It's a confusing statement.
Well, it's just he's saying yes, he says yes, we can accept discipline from someone more advanced than us in spiritual life. Even if such a guide is not yet God realized, such guidance will help us on the path of attaining the ultimate goal.
Yes, but that person could be. I came into the temple and I was given guidance by a devotee named Vishnu John, who became famous later on. I became guided by him, and he had only been 6 months or a year before I was, so I accepted his guidance. He read to me from the Srila Bhagavatam, and he wanted me to understand certain points about Vishnu, and I listened very carefully because he knew more than I did. But that doesn't may have come into Prabhupada. Just a guide, Elder Godbrother means guide. Putting too many names on it becomes too official, Second lieutenant, first class, decorated. This is what we're after. We're only after the simple realization of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Should I read some more?
Sure, yes.
Go ahead. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, Prabhu.
These are teachings from the Vedic wisdom. They differ from all other teachings throughout the world. They are different from the teachings of the so-called gurus from India. They are different from the teachings of the so-called religions of the Western world. And most importantly, they are different from teachings which appear to be the Vedic and Vaishnava teachings, not actually in line with the pure teachings of the Krishna consciousness movement.
Jai. Narayan Prabhu? This is all right?
What? Yeah, excellent.
Okay, let's continue, Rupa.
The true Vedic and Vaishnav teachings differ from all other philosophies in two important ways. First of all, they are personal. That is, they consider God to be the ultimate person. Virtually all the other philosophies, systems, gurus, and movements, even those purporting to be Vedic, culminate in an impersonal message. Without going into any great detail, in the final analysis, you will invariably find that these gurus and their disciples preach so-called God realization as being impersonal. If they even recognize Vishnu or Krishna, they consider them to be subordinate to realization of the light.
Joy. Yes, that is the problem. A lot of Hindus think like this, Krishna is just one of the gods of the many. And then the Brahman, right now, Narayan Prabhu, that guy you were talking
Yes.
about on the train, then there's what? The energy, right? Or something like that you said.
Yeah, well, after you realize all these forms of God, it's more or less you worship each god or demigod based upon your attraction to that one. But then in the end, you'll find out they're all just manifestations coming out of the light.
Yeah.
And the light being not a person, but a Brahman or light. And that all the forms vanish, and then you are faced with an impersonal God. But we take it from the Srimad Bhagavatam point of view, first canto, that everything originates with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then you move down you move down the structure, then you get to see that all the gods are worshipped by Hindus are fully present in the Krishna consciousness philosophy. It's just that they are delegated. Like when you take that Hindu point of view, he's describing a Hindu point of view, when you take that point of view, you go into a king's palace. And instead of seeing the king, you're seeing the king, the gardener, the cook, the princesses, the noblemen, the knights, the servants, everything. You're seeing them all as basically equal, and that they were hoping that you'll get to the point where you can see beyond the king to some sort of a impersonal presence that encompasses them all as equals. But the king is king, the queen is queen, the duke is a duke. They all have different roles to play in the hierarchical structure of the kingdom.
Right.
And that's where the Hindus have largely fallen off the boat into the icy water, because they try to see it all as one or equal, which it is not. If you go to a kingdom and you try to treat the servant of the king, the guy that's polishing the silverware, the same as the king, you won't last very long there. I assure you.
Yeah, right.
The king himself will not be pleased.
Joy. Okay. And Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita that people who worship the demigods, he doesn't recommend that. He condemns it actually.
No, he says that they go to the planet of the demigods.
Yes.
And those who worship me come to my supreme abode.
Yeah.
The thing about demigods, which the people that the Hindus have become, they used to be Sanatana Dharma, a very nice branch of the Vedic culture. But when they became Hindus under the direction of the Muslims, they sort of took everything they believed and stuffed it into one bag, so that they don't understand that all the demigods like Durga and Shiva, etc., are all only in the material world. They don't exist outside of the material universe.
Yes, they're all in the material world, yes.
Yeah, Vishnu does, and Vishnu expands as Shiva, but Shiva has contact with Maya, or the goddess material energy. Therefore, he's compared to yogurt, that you can take milk, which is Vishnu, turn it into yogurt, which is Shiva, but you can't take the yogurt and turn it back into milk. You can't take Shiva and turn it back into Vishnu, because Krishna never, ever, Vishnu is expansion of Krishna, never, ever comes in contact with the material energy.
Rupa Manjari Prabhu, you came to Sacramento and you saw some of the temples that we went to. What is your understanding here? What's
Well, they just everybody can just pick what they want. Like if they're all there, and you know, there's no central point to their worship.
right? Many of
Whereas
these,
Prabhupada is so clear, so unmistakably clear that
Right.
Krishna is the point. Krishna is the center,
yes,
and
yes,
everyone and everything is coming from him.
joy,
Oh, yes. Even Lord Brahma, who created our particular material universe, there's millions and gazillions, trillions of universes, and not just our one that the scientists are having such a hard time figuring out. But Brahma, he said, I forgot my quote.
Govinda Madi Purusham.
Yeah, Govinda Maripurusham, yes, that
Yes,
that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is spoken by Brahma, who in the Hindu religion, they consider Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu to be equal, but that's they have functions in the material universe.
yes,
And
yes.
besides which, Brahma is a jiva like us. He's a very, very advanced and very powerful spirit soul
Joy.
like us.
Mm.
He's not Vishnu Tattva.
Mm.
So all of these things are to be understood by reading Prabhupada's books. And if you read, recommended, get an original copy from, you can get it from the Bangalore temple, or where do you get them? Where do you get them if you're living in India?
Bangalore Temple, that's it. Or you can buy it online, krishnastore.com. Or you can message me if you're in the United States. I
I
can
know,
send
but
you
he's
original
in
copies.
India. Wouldn't he be better off?
Bangalore Temple. Bangalore Temple.
Yeah, the Akshaya Patra
Or
program.
or Krishna Store. They also ship to India.
Oh, they do? No
Yeah.
extra charge?
No extra charge.
Oh, good. Then they said we should do.
Krishna Store.
KrishnaStore.com.
Krishna Store is based in India, and they send to America and other countries too.
Yeah. So they're
Oh,
based
I
in
see.
India. So it's cheaper for them to buy
And
it.
that's all. Oh, then that's best. That's better
Yeah.
than Bangalore.
Right. So let's continue the readings. Prabhu. Rupa, can you read?
Sure. In other words, they often say that you really are God yourself, but somehow or other you have forgotten that. In the meantime, find a guru who has the realization that he is God and has become God again. Become his disciple, surrender to him, do as he says, worship him. He will train you to become God, supposedly just like him. Perhaps he'll prove his status by presenting you with his card with the word God on it. If you analyze the teachings of almost all of the multifarious gurus or holy men from India, you will find that the vast majority of them present a philosophy of impersonalism. Impersonalism never represents the true path to spiritual life.
What does impersonalism mean here?
That thinking that God is not a person.
Okay. Joy. Okay,
And
let's go ahead, Prabhu.
Impersonalism kind of covers a lot of territory. It also is the belief that God is in the energy and the vastness of the universe and space and time itself.
Okay. Nikhil Prabhu wanted to say something. Nikhil, you can, I guess the mute settings was messed up. So if you want to speak, you can anytime, Prabhu.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. Okay. So, asakta buddhihi sarvatra jitatma vigat spriha naiskarma siddham paramam sanya seha gadachati. Okay. So this Krishna says one who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. Right. So
Yeah.
self is God, right? What you experience, like Prabhupada says, part and parcel. So he's inside us, right? Some part of it. Am I right?
So what are you saying? You're saying that the individual soul is God? No, he's not God. He's part and
He's
parcel of God.
part of, yeah, right. So when you experience it, when you realize it, right? Or when you realize it, you experience it.
There's no question of realization. I mean, there is question of realization, but you're not going to realize that you're God. You're
Well,
part
no,
of.
because God is infinite. Krishna is infinite in Krishna Loka. He's a person, an infinite person. Everything else, including his Krishna Loka, Radharani, all the gopis, all the cowherd boys, everything that exists is within him. And when we are also within him, because Krishna Loka has so many cowherd boys and people, they're all pure spirit soul, infinitesimal parts and parcels of Krishna who have taken on forms that look equal in size to Krishna, but in fact, the jiva or the soul, like us, who we are, is infinitely small, which if you go for the math, the algorithmic aspect of it, that means that Krishna being infinite and we being infinitesimal, there's no limit to how many infinitesimal parts and parcels exist within the infinite personality of Krishna. So we right now are struggling within our material body to try to understand ourselves as the spirit soul. And that's what this passage is doing. That's what this passage that from Kailash Chandra is about, is to help us understand our relationship to Krishna
Right.
as
Nikhil Prabhu.
infinitesimal.
Yes. Nikhil Prabhu, you can ask further clarification if things are not making sense. So
Whatever you like.
whenever you like, yes. We'll
And
continue the reading.
Whoever reading or speaking, you can interrupt them to ask your question.
Yes.
Because our whole purpose is to answer your question, not to be talking.
Yeah. Okay, Rupa, can you continue, Prabhu, please?
Sure. Since Vedic teachings ultimately culminate in the Vaishnav system of God realization, we shall use the term Vaishnav teachings for the remainder of this treatise. The second way in which Vaishnav philosophy differs from other prominent Western systems, it emphasizes the manifest guru.
Okay.
Vaishnav philosophy is the science of the absolute truth. It is the science of attaining God consciousness. There are millions of devotees throughout the world. Becoming a devotee who has actually learned the fundamental truths of this absolute science without any error or compromise is both valuable and special. In any proper presentation of the absolute truth, the true status and importance of the spiritual master can never be ignored.
All right. Okay, so maybe I can read now. After the disappearance of a God-realized spiritual master, his disciples will often diverge into different and conflicting ways. All this transpires due to false ego and personal ambition. They then emphasize different things, creating factions. Many serious problems are created in the wake of each faction's bias. All of these problems trace their source to misconceptions revolving around the true status and importance of the guru. In order to learn the true importance of the guru, in order to emphasize the manifested guru, we must first learn who is guru and who cannot be guru. This requires understanding Vaishnava philosophy, learning in the truth the fundamentals of the science of Krishna consciousness. Narayan Prabhu, any comment?
No, it's very nicely said.
Okay, so he's making a point here. After the disappearance, he's saying, after the disappearance of the God-realized spiritual master, his disciples will often diverge into different and conflicting ways. Well, we're seeing this right now in India with the female Diksha gurus.
And Bhaktivedant Thakur, who lived quite a while ago,
Yes.
hundreds of years ago, he said that when the pure devotee speaks, whoever hears him speak will automatically produce that process of misunderstanding.
Yes.
That he'll make it into a more conventionalized. What is it? What he's referred to it as?
Sectarian.
Sectarian, yeah.
Yes.
He makes a sectarian view, which means one sectarian view. If 10 people hear a pure devotee, they will all have different sectarian views based upon their background, upbringing, previous life experience, previous births that they've taken,
Right.
how many millions of lifetimes they've taken to get to this point. All of that bears down on their understanding of what the non-sectarian pure devotee speaks.
Right.
So we have to understand that adhering to the pure devotee as the example or as the direct manifestation of Krishna's intelligence on earth is required. Because if we don't, then we'll go off on our own track, making up our own ideas. And next thing you will see, like so many Christian churches are there, they can't stand to talk to each other.
Right.
And then you see so many Muslims, they're busy killing each other, different sects, Sunnis, Shias, and various others. They have all of these different sects. And in Jews also, whoever, as soon as it breaks away from the original teachers if it breaks away from the teacher, the minute it's heard by the non-teacher, it becomes warped. And as time goes on, it becomes warped to where Bhaktivedant Thakur says people will be fighting with each other, rejecting each other, or even killing each other, which is true. And you can see in Christianity, the Catholics killed all the Protestants, and then the Protestants tried to kill the Catholics. Why? Because they both believe in Jesus, thou shalt not kill, love your neighbor as yourself. But they became so obsessed with their own understanding of the words of the Acharya that they turned it into their own sectarian faith, which was contrary to the next guy's sectarian faith.
So this is, that is the danger right here. After the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, all these things have come up. And
well, anybody, I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivedant Thakur, Gaurakrishna Babaji, everyone, and also Lord Chaitanya when he's preached.
Right.
How many people understood and how many people just got it wrong? And you can see that after Lord Chaitanya, there were so many branches coming down from him and Lord Nityananda that they ended up with a whole mess of people of various misunderstandings.
But at least at that time, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present, even though these things went on, the acharyas came and cleared it up, right? Bhaktivedant Thakur, the Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they were still living. At least there were acharyas present who defeated these nonsense philosophies, right?
Yes, but it's not possible to clear it up, because as soon as you clear it up, the person you clear it up with is going to perpetuate it again in a different way.
Right.
In other words, it's impossible to philosophically solve these things. But by chanting, there can be complete unity. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the need for the philosophical understanding is reduced to practically nothing. The only reason we need the philosophical understanding is so we can understand why should we chant. But the chanting is a Shakti avatar of Krishna. In other words, an incarnation of Krishna themselves or himself, as you wish to put it. and the chanting will deliver the whole world
Chai.
for the rest of the 10,000 years remaining in Kali Yuga,
So,
golden age of Kali.
yes, let's continue reading then. If aspiring Vaishnavas learn the basic building blocks of this science properly, there is some chance that they will continue to evolve in their knowledge. It will then become clearer and clearer for them. When these fundamentals are understood correctly, common delusions will be eliminated. Even if devotee becomes bewildered or fallen in other areas, that philosophical foundation can remain. As this knowledge spreads, a systematic foundation for the neophytes in Krishna consciousness will eventually emerge.
Well, yes, it emerges and destroys itself simultaneously because it's understood and misunderstood as it goes on. So that's why the connection with the Acharya must be there. We shouldn't think that it is linear. There was Prabhupada the Acharya, then he has a disciple, he has a disciple, he has a disciple, he has a disciple.
No, yeah.
All that comes from that is it gets more and more further from Prabhupada.
Yeah, I mean, many of the deviations that are occurring when Srila Prabhupada was present, he checked it, right?
Well, he tried to check it, but they were busy creating more deviations faster than he could check it. In their brain, in their mind, in their eyes, in their saying Jai Prabhupada, what was going through their head
right.
was already checking everything he was doing to. The only answer is to chant. The chanting clears up the misconceptions, and chanting the melodies that Prabhupada taught us will give us access to Srila Prabhupada rather than to wherever they came from the fishermen of Bengal or whatever.
Jai, okay. Let me see the Vaishnava. All right. We got, okay, let's continue our reading. Rupa, can you continue on different classes of devotees?
Obviously, the Guru is a Vaishnav, but his initiated disciples and followers are also Vaishnavas. Any person who believes that Lord Vishnu is God is a Vaishnav at some level. Knowledge of Guru entails learning about the different levels of devotional service, the different grades of devotees or Vaishnavas. Not all Vaishnavas are Gurus. Indeed, it's a special Vaishnav who is actually a realized spiritual master.
All right.
There are three classes.
That's putting it mildly. It's not only special, he has to be an Uttama Adhikari, meaning in his rasa with Krishna. The distinction is either you're speaking as though you're coming from, as though you're standing next to Krishna in Krishna Loka, in the kingdom of God, seeing earth way down here,
right.
Or we're way down here looking up through, trying to get past the clouds to see what does God look like. That's not the way to do it. You have to sort of take a neutral view and see it both at once. And then it makes more sense. Then you'll see that the pure devotee cannot be replicated on planet Earth with anyone except another pure devotee. And you don't become a pure devotee after studying for 5 or 10 years and getting your master's degree in pure devotedness, pure devotedness.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That's
yes.
a material mentality.
Yeah, the pure devotee's view and the conditioned soul his view is totally different. So, so that's
well, it has to be, because the pure devotee sees things from the point of view of Krishna. Krishna speaks through him. Krishna speaks with him. He speaks with Krishna. It's not as though it's just something abstract on a diagram. There's a relationship between Krishna and the pure devotee. And then Krishna wants the pure devotee to deliver people like us. Well, we can't expect that we're going to immediately, after a few decades or even a few centuries, that we'll have everything magically put together.
Right.
We have to take up the task and continue it as servants, and overcome our own tendency to try to lord it over everything, including our own nature, try to lord it over ourselves.
Yeah. Try. Okay. There are 3 classes of devotees, namely first, second, and third class. The third class devotees or the neophytes who have no knowledge and are not detached from material association, but who are simply attracted to the preliminary process of worshiping the deity in the temple are called material devotees. Material
Otherwise
devotees.
known as Kanista Adhikari,
Hmm,
or as he put it earlier, Brahman realized devotees.
yes.
You know you're not this body, you know your spirit soul, but you can't see it with your own eyes.
Yes. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotional service to the second class devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 12. That's the
Yes.
quote.
And that second stage is called Madhyamadikari.
Yes.
But a person can be remain a Kanista Adhikari, or the first stage, for many, many births, because he has to become tired of, he has to become, it was like the Indian culture was, a lot of them were Kanista Adhikaris. They were following the regulated principles, they were chanting, they were living a godly life, they were under the direction of a guru, and there were millions of them. But that doesn't mean they all became pure devotees within 10 years, or 10 lifetimes, or even 100 lifetimes. They ended up, not they, but I mean, the movement of such people went from Sanatana Dharma, they ended up being Hindus. And
Right.
as Hindus, they began to believe in a whole hodgepodge or mixture of things that have no relationship to reality at all. Ramachandra, did you get a email from me with some diagrams showing the relationships of all the residents of Krishna Loka?
Yeah. Yes.
And that satisfies Banu's question,
Yes.
which is that it shows exactly how Lord Ramachandra manifests and from where.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
During the course of this process, from the lower rungs of neophyte to the second class devotional position, one will remain a neophyte.
What?
Yeah, that's during the course of this process. During the course of this process, from the lower
No,
rungs.
progress.
Progress, yes. During the course of this progress, from the lower rungs of neophyte to the second class devotional position, one will remain a neophyte. Nevertheless, there will be evolution to higher spiritual knowledge within that third class status. This movement is both important and essential. It's during the stage of progress that spiritual knowledge is emphasized. It requires attentive hearing from the devotees who have the knowledge, are willing to communicate it, and who knows its importance. This foundation in philosophy is the only way to qualify for graduation from the neophyte status.
Well, it's more than just a foundation of philosophy, because philosophy itself is still a material mind in a material body, wearing material clothes, in a material atmosphere, thinking about spiritual life. That's what philosophy is. It's the process of thinking about something that you can't see.
Right. So
Whereas the second stage, the Madhyamadikari, or the second class devotee, he is actually in a position to begin to realize himself as spirit soul, as opposed to being the material body.
Yes.
Everyone naturally, you, me, everyone,
Sure.
assumes that our material body, and then we say, oh yeah, and then there's the soul. They don't, but we talk about the soul as though it's something somewhere else, far away. But actually the soul, I am the soul.
Right.
Prabhupada said, aham means I am. Aham brahmasmi. I am the soul, and I have a body.
All right.
So as long as I am trying to figure out things about the soul, it means I'm not being the soul. Because at least you say, I'm not trying to figure out anything about the soul. I'm trying to understand myself, who I am. Then you're beginning to at least acknowledge that you are the soul, even if you cannot realize it yet.
Can you read?
One has to raise himself at least to the stage of a second-class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. A third-class devotee, therefore, has to receive the instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavat. The number one Bhagavat is the established personality of Godhead, and the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. The third-class devotee, therefore, has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam 1-12 purport. Obviously, a third-class devotee, a neophyte, is not at all qualified to be a master. The neophyte is a student, still not fully eligible to know the absolute truth. Rather than imitating a spiritual master, the neophyte should be approaching a spiritual master. Imitation is always condemned throughout Vaishnava teachings.
So that's a very important point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the third-class devotee is not at all qualified to be a master. He's also not qualified to be the mayor of the town or the king of the kingdom. He's not qualified to be anything except what he does well. If he wants to be a master, he can become a master of his senses for a start. But also he's basically, if he, in a Vedic structure, he's the master of his household.
Yes.
He's the master of his children. He's the and relatives. If he's if he's an older brother and he's living with younger siblings, he's the master of those siblings. Not absolute master, but he has ranking above them. So nowadays, we can't even imagine a drunken gangster in the middle of the streets of America not having a right to stab some nice shopkeeper to death in a store. You know, that's what's boiled down to right now. But in this case, we're talking about the word master means nothing. And particularly when you come to the point of being a master at all in Krishna consciousness, you don't see yourself as master, you see yourself as servant. And you call even a cat or a dog or an insect, you will think of them as Prabhu or master. Well, how can I call an insect Prabhu? That's preposterous. How can I say to an animal Prabhu? Or maybe a cow, but what about a dog? Or what about a rat? How can I say Prabhu? I say Prabhu because if I have the vision, I see that he is also equal to me as spirit soul, but I see him as spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, who is master. Therefore, I say Prabhu. Yes. Prabhu means I recognize you, the guy coming at me with a knife and covered with dirt to kill me. Prabhu, I see you as Prabhu because you are spirit soul. Okay. Whether I get killed or not is a secondary issue.
Yes. Okay.
And you get that point.
Yes. So here, I'll read, the devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. One should not imitate the behavior of an advanced devotee or Mahabhagavad without being self-realized, for by such imitation, one will eventually become degraded. Nectar of Instruction, purport. Nectar of Instruction, verse 5, purport. So that's
yes. Well, a statement like that, a purport like that, is sort of like a warning sign.
Yes.
Be careful of the dog inside the fence. Don't jump the fence because there's a dog inside, he'll bite you. You know, it's a warning to people not to jump beyond their status. Yes. Of course, if a person is qualified to go beyond that medium status, he will see everyone as Prabhu. Therefore, he doesn't have to be warned because he's not looking for prestige. He's quite willing to be the eternal servant of everyone. Now, Prabhupada was spiritual master, but his outlook, he accepted everyone as his master, his disciples. A pure devotee accepts his own disciples as his his masters. Otherwise, what can he teach? Here is my master who thinks he's a woman, or who thinks he's a plumber, or thinks there's all these things. My master needs to see who he really is. So that's the pure devotee way he thinks. He guides the guides the disciple to his real nature, which is Jivatma, not murderer with a gun in his hand and blood all over his clothing. That also is Prabhu. We say Prabhu to the murderer with blood on his clothing. Why? Because he is part and parcel of Krishna, and he has been asked Paramatma to make me a blood-curdling murderer, and Lord Paramatma, who is Krishna himself, will not leave that jiva unsatisfied, because that jiva is part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna will not be unsatisfied. Therefore, no matter what crazy nonsense a jiva wants, Lord Krishna as Vishnu in the heart of all of us, each of us, one Vishnu for each of us, one Vishnu in the center of every atom as well. That's unlimited expansions of Vishnu. And from that point of view, in the heart, Vishnu listens to your request and grants it. So if your request is, I want to give up my sinful life and become a devotee, where is a devotee? Then Lord Vishnu says, why not look across the street? I think there's somebody there wearing saffron. He's a devotee and he's chanting Hare Krishna. Why not give him a look? Look at him. He can say. Or if he says, I want to kill somebody, how do I get the weapon? He said, well, there's a hawk shop over there. They sell all sorts of things, including weapons. Why don't you go over there and buy one? And will you show me how to use it? Well, of course, who else can show you how to use it? And will you help me to kill that person? You will kill the person and I will show you how, because you want me to, because that's your desire. And then he said, okay, let me go and do that. Do you think I should kill that person? Then Paramatma, faced with that question, says, no, of course you shouldn't. But if I want to, can I? If that's what you want, yes, you can. So then what happens in the heart of every living being? That's the heart of the bird, heart of the pigeon, in the heart of the dog, in the heart of the wolf, in the heart of the alligator.
We have a question from Vinayak Prabhu. Vinayak Prabhu, can you share what you want to say, Prabhu? I'll project it on the screen. 1 second.
Wonderful.
Okay, 1 second. Vinayak Prabhu wants to share something.
From Tokyo, huh?
Okay, Vinayak Prabhu, you ready? Where is it?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, like I was reading this from the Veda, like from Lilamrita. So this is a very famous incident, like of Iskcon. Maybe that time I would just read it a little bit so that Narayan Prabhu and
please do. But
Yeah.
remember, Lilamrita is written by a person just like us,
Yeah, I know that's not
not
accurate.
by a pure devotee.
Yeah. I have seen that Ishtagoshti also.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu, read. Yes.
So, yeah. Prabhupada thought some of his leaders had become entangled in Iskcon management and were trying to gain control for themselves. In the classes, he would speak of this only indirectly, and when he had exposed that the devotees weren't chanting and reading enough. Consequently, most devotees were unaware of Prabhupada's anxiety. But occasionally, while sitting in his room or in the garden, Prabhupada would express his concern. He wanted his disciples to manage Iskcon, but do so, they must be pure. Only then would be able to concentrate on writing books. In June, he wrote Brahmananda. Now my desire is that I completely devote my time in the matter of writing and translating books. And arrangements should now be done that our society be managed automatically. I think we should have a central governing body for dealing with important matters. I have already talked with Gargamuni about this. So if you come back by the Rathyatra festival, we can have a preliminary meeting at San Francisco in this connection.
What
In
is the
July,
year?
year I think it's 1969.
Is it up here?
Or
Yeah,
1970?
like
Whatever.
on the starting of chapter.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's good.
uh,
Yeah, because that's just before
1970.
he
Yeah.
created the dimension of
1969.
management.
This is 1969.
Yeah,
Okay.
early 1970s and late 69. So at that time, might be he was thinking of starting a GBC. So like, was
Yeah.
there something going on in Los Angeles temple? Like that is being very widely popular issue that we have seen in his biographies and many places. At that time, due to these issues, he gave sannyas to many of his disciples to just improve the leadership crisis, whatever it was happening.
Yes, but you didn't finish reading the quote, did you?
Yeah. I wanted to finish that.
Okay, 1 second. Let me put it back on. 1 second, Prabhu. Oh,
This
yeah.
is an extremely important thing.
This part, right?
So I finished this part of the reading it of that. This is the excerpt from the letter that he wrote that time. So I have read this, and the other part I'm continuing to read. In July, Prabhupada visited San Francisco for the fourth annual Iskcon Rathyatra. It was the biggest festival ever, with 10,000 people joining the procession through Golden Gate Park to the beach. Prabhupada felt ill and didn't join the parade until about midway. He danced in the road before the carts as 100 disciples encircled him, chanting and playing kartals and mridangas. Afterward, Prabhupada wanted to ride in the cart just as he had done the year before, but some of his disciples restrained him. A gang of hoodlums, they said, had caused trouble earlier, and for Prabhupada to ride on the cart might be dangerous. He disagreed but finally relented and rode on his car to the beach. At the Family Dog Auditorium on the beach, Prabhupada began his lecture. I want to thank you all for coming, although I am not well. I felt it is my responsibility to come as you have so kindly attended Lord Jagannatha's Rath Yatra festival. I felt it my duty to come and see and address you. His voice was frail. Later in his apartment in San Francisco, Prabhupada complained that he had not been allowed to ride in the cart. As leader of the Hare Krishna movement, he should have ridden on the cart. Not only had his disciples refused him, but several disciples had prominently ridden on the cart as if in his place. Prabhupada asked the many temple presidents assembled for the Yatra to meet and discuss forming a governing body to manage Iskcon. The devotees met and then reported that they thought only one of them should be elected the chief representative. They hadn't understood that strength should be in a group, Prabhupada said, not in a single individual. Since he was ISKCON's founder Acharya, what need was there for another single leader? He asked them to meet again. Returning to Los Angeles, Prabhupada announced he would award several of his disciples the Sarnyasa Order. The devotee community excitedly prepared for the festival. The sannyasis, Prabhupada said, would leave their temples to travel and preach. It was an unprecedented change for ISKCON, a sensation, and the devotees loved it. Although Prabhupada was awarding sannyasa to some of his most advanced disciples, he also said the sannyasa initiation was to purify these disciples and to rid them of their entanglement in material desires. He set the initiation for the end of July, 2 weeks later. One day in Los Angeles, a visiting devotee speaking with Prabhupada in his room humbly asked why Prabhupada hadn't answered his question in a recent letter. Prabhupada remembered no such letter. Inquiring from his secretary, Prabhupada discovered that his secretary often showed incoming letters to certain temple leaders who, at their discretion, would sometimes withhold letters they considered petty or too disturbing. Prabhupada was outraged. How dare they come between him and his other disciples? How could they presume to make such decisions on their own? How could a disciple censor his spiritual master's mail? So, this is the overall thing that in the issue, like in
I was
this
I was present at that time.
in Los Angeles.
Yes, that festival with the gigantic chariots.
San
I
Francisco.
built the chariots, but I didn't know any of this because I wasn't in the room with Prabhupada when this conversation took place.
Like, was there something with the leadership that time that some devotees were trying to encroach upon the leadership? So Prabhupada gave them sannyasa in Los Angeles that time.
Absolutely.
Because I remember like there is a web series like following Srila Prabhupada. In that also this incident has been there, that some tried to offend Prabhupada by giving him a salt mixed charnamrita or placing the picture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati upside down in the altar.
I was there when he got the salt in the Charinamrita in the temple room.
Who
But
were
it was as far as I know, it was an accident.
Okay. So what is the question, Vinayak Prabhu?
like there is something like some kind of vagueness in the details of Leelamrita and the online biographies of Prabhupada, that what exactly happened those times. That these incidents that censoring the letters of Prabhupada and making him like placing him in backstage within the management of Iskcon and someone trying to take the leadership positions. So, like, who were those
Exactly.
people and why they were trying to do this?
Well, they wanted to be in control. In simple terms, money and power. They could, Srila Prabhupada wanted each individual temple to become individually incorporated. He wanted each temple to be its own incorporated temple, meaning that you couldn't control it from the outside. Each temple president would be controlling his own Iskcon in the form of how many disciples, how many devotees, Prabhupada disciples were there in the house or building or temple building or whatever it was. Each temple would be separate. And if that had happened, Los Angeles has millions, 8 million people or something, one temple, not a very big one at that. So in Los Angeles, one temple, there should be by now, had they followed that idea of individual incorporation, there would have been probably hundreds, if not thousands, of temples in Los Angeles, because it would have spread like everywhere. The blissful chanting, the wonderful prasadam, the dancing in ecstasy. What was the bad part? It was something that everyone could be attracted to and were attracted to. But the people that wanted to control Iskcon took a different point of view. They said, better we should control a few temples than have no control over thousands of temples. That's the way they saw it, and that's what they did, and that's what they're doing right now too. At this point, I think we're reaching a crisis point in Iskcon where it's coming under question, and our League for 10K on this Zoom call is also taking part in bringing about a reality check to saying, let's recreate, let's establish Iskcon as Prabhupada's movement without all of these terrible things that Satsvarup describes in the Leelamrita. You see? So why would we consider? I mean, Jesus appeared and suddenly people started to betray him also. So why wouldn't people betray? Anytime a pure devotee comes, betrayal is the next item. Shankaracharya, the founder of the Banaras Shivite impersonal movement, was murdered by being given broken glass. And Prabhupada's guru was murdered with a supposedly medicinal injection that was actually poison, and it killed him. He was ill, and Prabhupada was poisoned with arsenic.
Sorry, bro. Please come again. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ji, you're saying that he was given injection.
I'm sorry?
You were saying who's given the injection?
Bhakti Siddhanta. Bhakti Siddhanta, Prabhupada's guru.
Yeah.
And they were same thing. They were fighting over who's going to get the temples.
Achha.
Bhakti Siddhanta wanted everyone to be servant, and the temples were so that people will come, chant, take prasadam, dance in ecstasy and Krishna consciousness, hear the Shastra. Such a nice, simple thing.
So you're talking about Gaudiya Mat, right?
They were thinking, how will I get I want this temple and so. There's 4 people that could take this temple. I want to be the one to take it. How can I prevent the others from taking it away? Rather than sharing it and just serving their lotus feet of their spiritual master forever, they plotted how they could get the temples.
So this conspiracy is done by Gaudiya Mat people, right?
Oh, yeah, this was 100 years ago. This is Bhakti Siddhanta's movement.
Did
Gaudiya Mat, no?
Prabhupada discussed about something regarding this incident about murdering of his spiritual master?
Spiritual master is murdered when the disciple thinks he's not going to get what he wants from the spiritual master. That means that the person didn't join to surrender to Krishna. They joined to partially surrender to Krishna, but have a scheme how I will be in charge of this temple when my guru is gone. And better my guru should go sooner so that I will be young enough to enjoy being in charge of the temple. This is a sad fact that occurs in the history of all religions. I hope I've not said things too gruesomely for you to handle. Ramachandra, you think I was being too gruesome?
No.
I was answering the question.
Sure. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions, we'll continue the reading, or we can continue the reading next time. So what's...
No, we can. This reading is good. Why don't we continue it?
Okay, let's do it. 1 second.
Rupa Manjoy and I have fairly extensive...
Please continue with the reading, please.
We have a fairly extensive history with... Oh, which reading? From the Lilamrita? That was very interesting.
Exactly, from the Lilamrita,
Yeah. So did you want to go further?
Okay,
Yeah, please go forward. Yeah. Vinayak Prabhu, something you wanted to interject?
No, I was reading the Lilamrita, so I was saying that I can continue.
Please read it.
Yeah,
I
want to
can
continue a bit.
Okay, so
That is the entire crucial part of Iskcon, where Iskcon stopped being Prabhupada's movement, and Prabhupada had to do everything he could to keep it going.
Okay, so I'm continuing.
Yes.
Hmm.
And Prabhupada kept things going by temples and by book publishing. You could no longer trust his disciples to want to become devotees. He only saw them wanting to sell books and be in charge of temples. And we needed temples, so we needed books, and that's what we ended up with. So go ahead.
Is this where we are? Or where are we?
We are below, like it passage starts with although.
Right here, okay.
In such group, since there were 10,000 devotees in the parade, there were many more, 30 or 40,000.
Okay, let's continue reading, Prabhus.
Although Prabhupada reprimanded the devotees involved, the incident only increased the already heavy burden on his mind. Again, the thought of a spiritual disease transmitted in letters from India disturbed him. He found no one close to him in Los Angeles with whom he could speak confidentially about his serious minimization of the spiritual master. As his anxiety affected him bodily, he fell ill and stopped eating. Karandhara. I had heard some things, but in the spirit of going on, it had all been glossed over. And Prabhupada didn't talk much about it either. One time, though I was in his room right after the sannyasis had left Los Angeles, he asked me if I could understood what had gone on. I said, "Well, I think so, but I didn't really know very much." At that time, the devotees who were going out on Sankirtana were in the alleyway chanting, and Prabhupada was at his desk. Hearing the Kirtana, he turned back, looking in the direction of the devotees below his window, and smiled. Then he turned to me. "They are innocent," he said. "Do not involve them in this business." Karandhara still didn't understand, and he wondered what not to involve them in. He didn't know, however, that a shadow was hanging over the heads of the sannyasis. Prabhupada requested. So, Narnarayan Prabhu, I was just wanted to know this thing that what is that thing that was happening that time that was worrying Prabhupada, and like Karandhara Prabhu was not able to understand that what's going on is Iskcon and what is the main cause of worry for Srila Prabhupada.
Well, I can tell you what it was, structurally, it was that the serious devotees that were in charge of temples had become thinking that they wanted to incorporate Iskcon, which they ended up doing, as a global corporation. Prabhupada wanted each individual temple to be separately incorporated. So essentially, it was about money and power. They wanted to see, how can I be in charge and how can I control? And they realized they could not go against Prabhupada openly and directly, but they found so many ways to sneak around Prabhupada to get what they wanted. So when he sent those devotees coming, and I recall that conversation, when he saw those devotees coming, and he said, "It's very nice, they're so innocent, they were dancing and chanting blissfully." They had no idea of what was going on behind the scenes. And then he said, "Don't involve them. Let them be blissful." But at the same time, he made it absolutely clear there was a very serious problem. And that problem, which was in 1970 or so, is going on until today. So many decades later. So our job here with the League for 10K is to rectify and bring it back to Prabhupada the way he wanted it when he said there's a problem. Our job right now is to remove that problem, which has gotten worse over time. And now they're trying to find all sorts of excuses to do this, that, and the other thing. And the gurus, they're trying to control. And they're finding it harder to control because it's splitting up in every direction. They can't control. It's like trying to control the ocean waves. You try to grab this wave, and another wave down the beach does something that you can't control. So this is where they're stuck right now, and this is what the League for 10K was formed to correct. And you're part of it. You're right in the middle of it, not of the problem, but of the solution, to bring Krishna consciousness as it is without Prabhupada having to feel the grief of people going against him and betraying him, right as his closest sannyasi disciples.
And the same thing we also feel today, like we see people in Iskcon doing nice service, chanting, dancing,
Yes.
distributing books. We also feel that they are very innocent. They don't need to be dragged in all this.
Yeah, so we're not trying to drag them. The people that we're trying to attract in Iskcon are not the ones that are totally happy chanting, although they don't chant Prabhupada's melodies, so they're not going to be 100% happy. And they don't dance the way Prabhupada styled, with crossing the legs while chanting, which means that they're not going to feel their heart opening. And they play some crazy, violent mridanga sounds, which means they will not feel their stomach, hara, the abdominal chakra, the stomach chakra becoming empowered by the mantra. As you dance back and forth and twist your abdomen, and then you're playing the mridanga, and it resonates from the heart and the bowels, so that everything becomes transcendentalized in your body when you chant the way Prabhupada chanted, with his own melodies and with his own mridanga beats and the kartals. When it's done like that nicely, not clashing, but it was it automatically cuts the chords that are described in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, the chords that are binding the heart. And when the cords are cut by the kartals, like scissors or knife, sharp razor, when that razor cuts the cords around the heart, then the heart can open. And then next thing you know, tears are streaming down your face while you're dancing in ecstasy. That's what can be done, but we must restore that. But everybody took it off in their own direction. Bhaktivedant Thakur says that Prabhupada's spiritual master's father, he said that when the pure devotee speaks, he speaks, and from that point, his pure message is taken by people who no longer keep it pure, but they make it sectarian, because they make it according to their own intelligence. So all the things that Prabhupada was talking about is his disciples had openly defied him and wanted to run things their way. And the reason, to answer your first question now, and that is the heart of your only question really, and that is they thought that they knew more about corporations. America was very corporate in the 1960s. They thought they knew more about corporate structure than a holy man from India would know. So they said, you sit tight and translate, and which he said he wanted to do. But then they said, we want to run things our own way because we know how to do corporations. So they made themselves into board of directors of a corporation, made that corporation global. So it's now centered in Mayapur, India. And as a result, there's no growth or freedom, spiritual growth or spiritual freedom in the movement going on. More temples, yes, nice prasadam, often enough, but the kirtans have become ego trips. They're ranting, not chanting. And the purity is no longer an objective. Never mind, we never had purity. We were learning purity from the lips of Srila Prabhupada. That could have continued on and on and on and on. And there were many examples. I was with Prabhupada in 1973 when he led a kirtan. And it was so ecstatic that all the devotees forgot all the garbage in their minds, all the plotting and scheming in their hearts, all the ways they wanted to profit from Iskcon, and they just simply surrendered for a moment, and tears streamed out of everyone's eyes, and tears were streaming out of Srila Prabhupada's eyes. It was at a pandal in Bombay, and before we built the temple there in Juhu. And when the chanting was going on, I saw the deities were dancing, marble deities, and they could have fallen off the stage if we had continued without thinking. No one was paying attention. So I ran around and put my arms around Krishna and around Radharani. I dared to take my horrible, sinful arms and wrap them around Radharani and Krishna, and I was all I could do to keep them from falling onto the ground. They're heavy, big deities, marble. But you can see that was a moment of goodness or transcendentalness in the midst of schemes and plots against Prabhupada, including the design of the temples. He didn't want them, but he didn't want the Vrindavan temple designed the way it is. He didn't want the Bombay temple designed the way it is. But the architect wanted to do it, and he did it that way without Prabhupada's permission, even though Prabhupada openly said he didn't want it like that. So you can see, I was in the middle of all of that too. And I was there at that Rathyatra. I built the Rathyatra cars. My brother and I went on the radio station and screamed our heads off getting people to come, and 30,000, 40,000 people showed up. A great feast, etc. But they wouldn't let Prabhupada ride on the cars because earlier we'd been attacked by a gang of, what were they? Black nationalists. They had Afro hairstyle, wore black clothes. They jumped on the Rathyatra cars and were trying to destroy them. So they were afraid of Prabhupada being attacked, but he wouldn't have been attacked. That was just at the beginning. Those people went away. They were called the Black Panthers. And we fought them off with sticks.
So they had some animosity with Prabhupada, or they were just new, like anti-social
Well,
elements?
they apparently, one devotee said something to one of them somewhere else before the festival, derogatory of the Black Panther movement. So they wanted to come and get their revenge on this sacred, holy movement saying bad things about them. They could just as, if they had said nice things about them, they might have come and danced and chanted with us and changed the history of the politics of Berkeley, Oakland, and San Francisco. But no, he had to say something bad. And so they came to destroy us. My father was quite elderly at the time, and he had a beard, and he had his own robes, and he came different types of robes, so not Indian robes, but Middle Eastern Jewish robes. And he came and he had a staff in his hand, and he kept smashing while that blood-curdling fighting was going on, he was smashing his staff on the ground and crying out, "Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance." I think that had a powerful effect on everyone involved. So I want to thank you for reading that passage. It's very good. So anyway, go ahead. I've said so many things. Is there anything else you want to know that I didn't say that you'd like me to say, or shall we go ahead?
Yeah, actually, we want to know everything that you didn't say on those Prabhupada's memories and those audio clips or those pastimes of Prabhupada that you wished to share sometimes, but you haven't.
Yeah. Well, because I was not on the side of these leaders, because I was on the side of Prabhupada, they basically wanted me out of the picture as much as they could. So I was out of the picture a great deal. I built a temple in Los Angeles, big temple, marble floors, onyx arches, and then they kicked me out of there. Then in 1975, I was made the director of the BBT art department. I turned it from 4 artists into 15 artists, producing not a painting every 2 months, but 1 painting every month in a very much higher quality and style. So you can see from the 5th canto to the 10th canto, all of the paintings, all the illustrations, unless they've added others, which I think they may have, all the illustrations I was in charge of designing. So that's what I got to do.
Yeah, Vishwakarma stuff.
But I could have done so much more.
So Prabhu, are there more versions of Leelamrita? Like, is it just one Satsvarupa Prabhu's version, or there are other devotees also who wrote similar kind of Leelamrita for Srila Prabhupada?
No, Satsvarupa, because he became one of the successor gurus. So he actually jumped on board with the people that he was describing there. I'm amazed. I've never read that part. I'm surprised that he described it, because it goes against everything he later on stood for. He became a guru. He's still a guru. He's very ill and he's in terrible condition. And he thinks that having become a guru was a big mistake. He feels, which is true, but it's amazing. I didn't know he'd written this. I read some things in the Leelamrita in the earlier parts, and I found them so unpleasantly untrue that I didn't want to read the rest of it. But you read this part, now I'm eager to go back and read more of the Leelamrita. And I have a set of them right here in my apartment. So I can start reading it again and see what I missed. If that was something he wrote about, it's amazing that he wrote about it. What do you think, Ramachandra? Don't you think?
Yeah, I also felt it amazing. Like somebody in Iskcon writing these things.
Yeah, Brahmananda talks about these things also in some videos of him remembering Srila Prabhupada. Apparently,
Did you say Brahmananda?
Yeah, Brahmananda, about his bewilderment and Prabhupada giving him sannyas for purification and all that. So,
about the Prabhupada is God situation?
Yeah.
I never heard him describe it.
He briefly talks about it, but he doesn't say that it was that exact.
Well, it started in Los Angeles.
Yes, that was.
I was there with my wife, Tina Dayadri. It started in Los Angeles, and she was from Detroit, and they went to Detroit, and we went there to Detroit. Then we went to Boston on the way to New Vrindavan, and we were there with them at that time. And then we went to New Vrindavan, where the whole thing came to a head, and they were defeated.
Okay, Vinayak Prabhu, anything else you want to ask Narayan Prabhu? Or
I think there was one more Leelamrita written by Rameshwar Prabhu also, like if Narayan Prabhu knows about it.
No, which one? Who wrote by who?
Rameshwar Prabhu.
Rameshwar?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
I didn't realize you wrote anything like that.
That was like I was watching one video in which the Govinda Dasi Mataji was showing that Leelamrita to the audience, that this is a rare edition of Leelamrita written by Rameshwar Prabhu and everyone must read it. So from there
he called it Leelamrita also?
No, maybe biography of Prabhupada, but kind of same thing. Because maybe there were some things that were from his life or his relationships with Srila Prabhupada, which was not included in Satsvarupa Prabhu's version of Leelamrita.
Well, Satsvarupa got the whole backing of the GBC and the whole point of the Leelamrita was to support the idea of him and 10 others being successor gurus to Srila Prabhupada, which fell on its face. And so what happened is that he got a lot of money, and he sent a guy that was a former CIA operative to go out and interview everyone with tape recorders. And so they interviewed thousands of devotees, and they had all the tapes of these interviews. And he used those as the basis for writing the Lilamrita. But I was very amazed at the portion that you saw, that you shared with us about that Rathyatra, 1970 Rathyatra. Because I talk about it fairly frequently, but what I didn't know is all the things that you read were things I'd never encountered because I wasn't in the room with Prabhupada and Satsvarup at that time. Okay, so what's now? Ramachandra, we need you.
Well, Vinayak Prabhu is asking the question, so let's, Vinayak Prabhu, you got to finish it off. We got 15 minutes.
Yeah, bro, like this is the benefit of Ishtagoshti. We get to know many things from Narayan Prabhu. So,
Yeah, well, in this case, it so happened I was there.
Yes,
I was personally present.
Jai.
because anything happened in Los Angeles, we can ask its history from Narayan Prabhu always.
Oh,
Hari Bol Jai.
oh, Heat Prabhu, Hare Krishna, good to see you.
Hare Krishna, bro. So, Vinayak bro, what was the case which you sent it in the group? I was like, Haribol?
I don't know, Prabhu.
You sent it in the WhatsApp group, right?
Is Nikhil still here?
Yes, he's still here. He's on the, he's in the participant list, but I'm not sure if he's listening or not.
So you sent it some videos in the WhatsApp group, right? Having disco parties and all. What was it?
So you're getting the inside story here, Nikhil, I mean.
Yes.
But you know, if you bring someone into the emergency room and they got a big pain in their abdomen, sometimes you have to cut open the abdomen and perform a surgery. Which that doesn't seem like a way of making that person feel better. You come in and he's feeling terrible. Now you cut a hole in his insides and take something out. That doesn't sound like it's nice. But in this case, it has to be done. Just like if you have a bad appendix, well, they open up your abdomen and take out the appendix. And there's blood, and you have to be sedated or anesthetic. But that's what we're doing here. Is we're going into the wound of this movement to heal this movement. And that's our mission.
Exactly. Yeah, bro. Got it.
And you're welcome, more than welcome, to join us. We enjoy your personality, your intelligence, your interest. So please do become with us too, as much as you like.
Sure, bro. Sure. Always like to be in your service anytime. I guess I need to tell Ronald Prabhu that I can host the meetings if you want. No issues. But just the
Okay.
timings you let me know. Yeah.
That's good.
Jai. Okay, so very good. So we have a volunteer to host the meetings. Jai, okay. That's great.
And we want to spread this out. We want to broaden everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
so that it's not just a few people talking, but we can bring in more and more people. The only thing which we want, however, is to stay on the topic, which is how to restore Prabhupada's movement to his intention of it, not to our the degradation of it, you see.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Nikhil Prabhu was saying something.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Who's saying?
Nikhil Prabhu.
Nikhil Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada.
Jai.
He's muted.
Yeah, he has to unmute himself to speak. So we got about 10 minutes. So we'll continue our reading from that website. What is today? Wednesday, Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. Maybe Mohit Prabhu can, if the kids are there Saturday, Mohit Prabhu can facilitate the meeting. I'll coordinate with him in advance.
But you have to,
Sure.
because he has to know exactly how to do it.
Oh, he knows how to do it. He's a computer guy.
Yeah.
He knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
well, I mean, but do you know Zoom, how to manage Zoom calls very well? Mohit?
Mohit, do you know how to manage Zoom calls? I think he does.
He's muted.
Yeah. That I know, bro. That's not an issue. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Well, if
Hosting
you
is
know,
okay, but-
that's fine, but otherwise, even
Yeah.
if you know, Ramachandra can go over it with you,
Sure.
just so
Yeah.
you'll understand how he
Sure,
does it, and then you can add and subtract and make it as good or better.
Make
you
it
wish.
expand.
He's
make it
always the
better.
vice. He's always
Yeah.
the vice president. President is Prabhu you, and I am just a simple servant, right?
I am the servant. I am the consultant.
Everyone does. Everyone are
Haribo.
servants. Das and das. Okay. Jai.
That was really an amazing reading.
Yeah, Jai.
Vinayak Prabhu, anything else, Prabhu? We're about to sign off in about 9 minutes. So
Yeah,
No,
so
now
was Vinayak okay with the way we handled that?
yeah, Prabhu, I'm very much glad that you shared those things that we cannot find in Linamrita anywhere.
Well, it's sort of an amazing thing because it just happened to be a coincidence that I happened to be there at the time that you were reading about.
Yeah, Prabhu. So actually, maybe Prabhupada wants to reveal something through yourself on this meeting, which will be
Wow.
live streamed on YouTube.
Yes, well, it was not available anywhere else for sure.
And Prabhu, regarding the plans of restoring Iskcons to what Prabhupada wanted. So earlier also I have talked about this on the Ishtagoshtis about making a proper propaganda that there are many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, many personal associates who still feel that Iskcon, what Iskcon should be in actually. For example, there are many disciples of Prabhupada who agree to the original books, to the Prabhupada system of initiations, and to elections in GBC. So, but a lot of people who are just entering the Iskcon, the millennials or 20-year-olds, they don't know about this thing that Prabhupada's personal associates are there who don't agree with the Iskcon management. So I was just thinking about this, that how about those disciples who are feeling that Iskcon should be the way Prabhupada wanted?
Well, let's bring them all together. We
Yeah,
want them. We want you to
bring
embrace them. We
everyone.
want to be with them, and we want you to bring them to us too.
Yeah, we want to make a new GBC for League of 10K.
Well, the GBC will have to sort itself out. We're doing the book work. We're doing the
Yeah,
scholarship of Prabhupada and everything, and
yes,
that's not going to include all of the stuff that came down the line. It will, because it came down the line. But if we recreate Iskcon then all of the things that happened between then and now will become part of the new Iskcon, but the structure will make it much easier and more blissful, and everyone will have a much better time. And then all the recollections of Prabhupada can be seen from an entirely fresh and new point of view.
Yeah, so we only want to take their testimonials and publish it on the website or social media. The testimonials about original books, initiations, GBC, collections, everything.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping you will be doing.
So I don't even know their names.
Well, Ramachandra knows everybody and everything.
Yeah. I think Ramchandra Prabhu, we should do that.
Sure, sure. So let's
that, yeah.
so let's
I
work
can tell
on
you
FBI
everything that
agent.
happened. I can tell you
The
anything
main
that happened
FBI
50
agent
years
is
ago.
Vinayak.
right.
Ronald Prabhu, main FBI agent is you of this group.
Well, you can say to some degree. I find all the loose nuts.
Yeah, and we start taking testimonials and making a good propaganda.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. But the main thing is we want to bring Iskcon 100% authentically Prabhupada without adding or subtracting. Just the way he spoke, what he ordered. So if he said elect the GBC, we'll say, okay, Prabhupada said elect the GBC. And then the GBC, the third, said, we don't want to be elected. Fine, you don't have to be elected, but you're not really the GBC. We are waiting to see when the GBC can be elected, and that will come when the temple presidents want to elect the GBC. So the temple presidents will have so much more freedom if they elect the GBC than if they're under the control, the autocratic totalitarian control of a GBC. They're going to start seeing that, wait, that's an idea. And then they're going to see, why do I want to be an Iskcon guru? I have to take on karma of 1,000 people. I'll end up in hell instead of them. Why should I do that?
I'll be in hell instead of them. It's a classic.
Very good.
Isn't it better that I become the servant of Krishna rather than the lord of the devotees?
You'd think that they would be aware of the danger of doing that.
Well, we know about Chidananda and Bhagavan, right?
You guys,
Chidananda asked Bhagavan, how will I go back to Godhead? And Bhagavan grandly gestured. How did he gesture? I'm trying to do it. It's hard to do. He made a grand gesture saying, I will take you back to Godhead. But then a few years later, after having initiated probably hundreds, if not 1,000 disciples, initiates, he fell down and never got back up again.
well, he got back up. He met you in Rathyatra 2021, no?
With his dog,
Yeah.
a big dog.
Big dog.
Scary dog.
Were you there, Rupa?
Yeah, I was there.
With me, yeah. Ah, I see. You have not lost anything. Pure, unalloyed
Love of
love
dog.
of dog. That's all.
Did you pet his dog? No, Prabhu. I said, did you
I'm
pet
sorry?
his dog?
Then what?
Did you pet his dog?
I don't pet dogs.
Okay.
Good spot.
Okay, good.
I don't pet pigs either.
Okay.
I do pet cows and calves, and bulls,
Jai.
when I'm close enough and if they're not looking too ferocious, I do. But dogs, why would I pet a dog? And the big question is that I didn't ask him is, are you feeding that dog vegetarian dog food?
Okay.
There was one devotee who was in charge of the BBT, in charge of the BBT publishing, and he went to Hawaii. He ended up with a bunch of big dogs, and he would buy big chunks of beef and bury the chunks of beef in the ground, and when it was sort of seasoned and rotten and whatnot, he'd bring it out and feed his dogs. I said, how can you do that? Do you want to take on the karma of killing a cow so you can feed your dog? He said, oh, there's no karma in that. Dogs eat meat. That's why I do it. If they ate strawberries, I give them strawberries. They eat meat. I said, but you arranged you bought the meat, right? Well, yes, it doesn't come for free. Can you imagine?
Okay, it's 10 o'clock.
All right. Jai.
Okay, thank you very much. And where is our new Prabhu? Is he still with us?
Nikhil is still here. He's going to join us again on Saturday. And
I just want to say, please be welcome. I hope we didn't intimidate you too much. And please realize everything you hear is part of the future.
Jai.
We're not talking about the past. We're creating the future, and everything we're saying is the future. Okay, great.
Thank you very much, devotees, for joining. If anyone likes to get in contact with us, please join the WhatsApp group. The link is posted in every video that we do, and then they can contact any of us. Jai, bro.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu Maharaj, Mahaprabhu.